Evening all, welcome back to, oh gosh, Space Engineers. This is going some, isn't it? We're building that. Whew, it's taken a while, but it is rather fun. And we're now, I'm proud to say, finishing off. This is where pretty much we're done. And we just need to then make it beautiful, make it functional, and then we can, basically put it in a corner and look at it and go, oh, I made that. And then, delete it when I'm bored of it. All that effort, and it's just I know it's just going to sit here, but we're going to have some fun with it. We are going to basically copy it. Once it's finished, we're going to copy it and we're going to blow the crap out of it in every possible way. So you have that to look forward to, but not yet. It's not finished yet. And I've also got to admit, it's running still quite well. The game is actually not too bad. Again, it's coming on, isn't it? It looks all right. It needs painting. That's what we'll do towards the end. And the front bit needs doing. But in terms of an apocalypse, I don't think that's too bad. I'm quite proud of that. This last bit on the front is probably the tricky bit. But to be honest, when you're dealing with something this big, the reality is that it doesn't really matter where you put the blocks and bits. It's almost so pixelated, but inversely. Do you know what I mean? The detail, the pixels actually don't matter. So the blocks become the pixel, and the pixel doesn't really matter because these things are so big. It doesn't have to necessarily be totally there, but it kind of works. Hope that makes sense, because I was just surprised actually how towards the end I'm just going blah 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 anywhere. Yep, that'll do. Yep, that'll do. Yep, that'll do. And to be honest, it's working quite well. I've got to admit, this apocalypse I think has been quite a joy. Ooh, that's not good. That's really not good. Let's delete that before it breaks something. That is not bad actually. That's like doing a whole build without a single accident. That was an accident. What happened was a plate became disconnected, so you've got to be careful of that. You see, you've got those kind of points there connecting them all. That's really, so we need to do it underneath just so they don't look bad on the top. That's really critical. Plus, when you start to take damage with this ship, if you haven't made it so that the structure is quote sound, then as one or two blocks go, it could give away half the plates on the ship. So bear that in mind. This is not Minecraft. This is a lot more challenging in terms of its building. But there we go. I mean, again, this thing has really, really, really been a labor of love, I must admit. And I think, look at the size of this thing. It's huge. Yet it's still running quite well. I know at this point, Nano is having real trouble. But I believe he's only got like 2 gig memory, whereas I've got, I think, the 16 or 32, I forget. But basically, I just, I threw as much memory as my motherboard could hold, and I knew to do that because when I used to play EVE, like for multi-boxing and such, you need memory is actually the key thing, not CPU, if that makes sense. And I think probably it's almost the same. I think here, maybe it's not the CPU that's struggling; it's certainly the memory part of this. Post in the comments if you are a techno wizard guru, then please give us your wisdom and tell us what we should be looking to put on our PCs to make this run better. I would assume memory. So anyway, as we continue, we're almost kind of completing now, and I think really the scale of this thing is now starting to come into view. When I started building this with just the frame, it looked relatively small, I must admit. Now that it's almost complete, the reality is this is a fecking huge ship. And to be honest, to fit this out inside would be a joy. And I am going to try it, but again, my PC will eventually give up the ghost because this is just, already it was starting to strain the ship. So we'll look at that. And again, just to remind everybody, we're going to do the pod fit out first. So this assumes that there's just literally one pilot on board. He's in his pod, in his goo, and he just literally sits suspended somewhere. That's the first fit we'll do, and that's the easy one to do for the obvious reasons. But we will then assume that this is maybe a non-pod battleship, and we'll build that at some point. But again, fitting this out, I think it just needs that little bit more optimization, where you can put maybe just twice the number of blocks. Because think about it, we've just done a skin of this thing. Imagine having to do like like a deck 100 decks, you know, across the length of the ship. Imagine that. In fact, that'd be interesting. You don't even have to put it horizontally. We could maybe do them vertically as well, because in space it doesn't really matter, does it? So you could just have decks all the way along. You know, who says this has to be upright? Maybe, you know, it could be the other way around, who knows. But I think that's going to be the challenge, is to see if we can actually put you know, a suitable number of working decks in here. Now again, there isn't even enough modules or equipments in the game to actually warrant this space. So this is kind of the issue. There's no, you know, mega super reactors, there's no mega super weapons or anything like that yet. It's all pretty much kind of frigate based. But there we go, look at that. That's looking pretty chill, I think you'll agree. Although it's got a weird eye there. Let's just remove that. There we go. But again, it's running relatively smoothly, and I think, you know, I was quite impressed actually. But as we fly through, look, it's all hollow at the moment. Look at the size of this. Look at how much space you have to work with. And it's just, again, you know, this is my OCD kicking in. It has to be water bearing. It has to be able to bear water. I don't know why. It just made me smile that it would be like that capable. But again, I wanted to kind of show something that I think just really showcases the size of what you can do. And again, I'm just keen not to have any floating bits of blockage going on. But so we go, what's going on here? Look at this. This could be a sneaky hidey hole in for an armed group of dust mercs, maybe. As if I think the fact that they called the game Dust has always locked them to the, you know, the bleeding planet. They should just admit that actually you don't have to be on the planet all the time. A level or two on a Titan, yes please. But there we go. This is coming nicely. This is good. I think, you know, the colours. I mean, Nano's going to paint it because he knows how to do that. But he, I actually didn't know how to do it. He showed me how to do it. It's pretty cool. But you can change the colour of blocks quite easily, which we'll show you later. But I would say that that is coming on nicely. There's only the front bit left to do, and I would say that you know, is kind of getting there. In terms of, I think then, it needs beautification. So the Apocalypse underneath has got loads of kind of like beacons and antennae and all that. So we will put them in, but again, this is just the block frame to begin with. And I've got to admit, this is huge. I honestly think that is to scale. I honestly do. I think it just about makes sense. Oh, I'm putting a door in before I realise I've got a reactor on. So here we go. Now starting to put a few modules on. Nothing crazy yet. We're not gonna. Everything I put in right at this moment is just a placeholder, because, again, if you remember my flagship build, the biggest and most complex thing was actually working out where and how to arrange the internals of the ship, because again, that's kind of the key bit. So again, I'm looking on my screen to my left. I'm actually doing my blueprint looks just to make sure that I've got that right, and there we go. But what I was trying to do is really work out, actually, firstly, you need airlocks in and out, because I'm pretty much sealing this off now. So that was my first thing. But again, to run airlocks, you need some form of power source. So I'm just going to put any old power source into the ship. And what I was pleased to see was the power source is ship wide. So while gravity won't be, because obviously gravity is just a field, and that's obviously dependent on where you are, one power generator will power everything that's connected to it. So now the whole ship has got power, if that makes sense. Not much, but power. So basically I can put my my doors in, which is good. So the doors will actually work now as well. So let's just show that I'm working. So we go, look at this. Imagine that. Imagine that. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? As I try and get out my door. I tell you what, the gravity, if you're not lined up, oh, killer. But then the ship could do with gravity. The thing that makes the flagship so easy to move around, as you can see, I can't even get out the door. But the thing that makes the flagship useful in terms of that is the gravity. You can actually move around without having to use your jetpack, which is a nightmare. As you can see, just getting out this door is almost impossible. But look at that. Isn't that sweet? That's just so, you know, this you know, mind blowing right there, just that thing of coming out. So you look at that, surely that's the scale. Surely it can't be much more. Surely it is, and don't call me surely, but I don't know. In terms of, I think, the way that this is going, I think this was better than expected. I honestly thought the computer would give out halfway through. And I was really pleased to see it didn't. And I think already this is just, you know, sort of reassuring me in that actually we could probably do quite a bit more in terms of a fit out. Now again, I will do the internals at some point, but I think for now I'd rather just get this thing looking good on the outside. Plus, again, you know, a lot of the issue with this is that, you know, it just needs to be movable first. It is a ship. It should be able to move and, you know, slow down and stop on its own power. So we do need to put some engines on, but again, you would look to do that in a more kind of artistic way. And as you can see, as I fly through the entire hull, it's looking pretty sweet. So Nano's doing a good job at the front. He's doing, in fact, an excellent job. And as I fly all the way back again, you know, it's getting there, isn't it? It's looking pretty good. And it's just vast. I mean, it's a cathedral. Quite honestly, a cathedral, this thing. And every time I look at the door just puts it in sort of scope. Oh, no, I've just blown the gantries. Damn, that's stupid. Ugh, that's annoying. See, again, you got to be really careful of those things. But yeah, just having gantries there just makes a lot of sense. You know, I think, yeah, again, just the jetpack thing's really annoying me. I think my next step, I haven't done this yet, but I think my next step will actually be to just put a gravity field throughout. Because then that just makes life a lot easier for when you're trying to get through doors. But look at that. I mean, you know, that's pretty impressive. One block is the size of a man in terms of height. So, you know, that's quite a big ship, surely. So, by the time we reach this point, it's pretty much like, you know, this is getting there now. What I think we needed to do is then color this thing. So again, the blocks colors are very basic at the moment. So we'll just go with black and gold at the moment. We'll stick with that. Or black and yellow probably is more accurate. But I think what we'll probably look to do at some point is really, you know, maybe draw out some of the features of this. So, for example, it can have turrets. I think we will put proper turrets on it, but not the turrets in the game. We'll actually make proper rotating, you know, turrets, because I think that would actually be quite cool. But really, I think, again, at the moment, I'm just keen to keep, you know, the feel that this is a ship, so therefore it has egress and access throughout. I think is quite important, in fact. And I think, you know, I'm trying to remove blocks as well. So you see here, these are dead blocks. I don't necessarily need these in, so I'm just going to remove them because, again, a lot of the game is really just about, you know, if you can reduce the number of blocks, then the less laggy it will be. So I think that's quite an important thing to do. Plus, again, when you build these things, you'll use probably about, you know, 20% more blocks than you really need to, just reinforcing it. And like all the struts, like we don't need these struts, so we'll get rid of that. We don't need that as well. In fact, we don't even need any of the cross members here, so I think we can just get rid of them as well. All of these are just completely pointless because the whole structure is kind of set. But what's interesting with this is that the whole structure is so huge, is the interplay between all the blocks. I'm really curious to see how that's going to work, because I think my biggest fear is that as I maybe, like, you know, power on this thing and start to just literally angle and turn it, is that the whole torque of it moving, that's TORQE by the way, yeah, QUE. I think that's the key. If it could rip the ship in two, and that's something again that I'm quite curious to see, because no game I've really seen has ever done that very well. Certainly nothing like StarMade, nothing like Minecraft or anything like that has done this very well. I don't even know if kind of, you know, angular torques are even a thing in this game, but I would be not too surprised if it is a problem, because every block has got shearing as well. So if it's hit, it will shear. So, you know, again, that's quite impressive when you think about it. That's quite an impressive addition to have. But again, as we just come outside, just to have another look, just to see where we need to put some focus. I think they've probably got one thing wrong, is maybe that front bastion, or whatever you call it, is a little bit too big. But then again, is it a problem? No. Is it a big deal? No. I think this is the kind of thing that, again, I probably should have pixelated a picture to begin with and just measured out the key points. So I've got a little bit of error there, but this was all done from hand and eye. So hopefully that shows you, you know, you don't need, you know, to sort of sit down and work it out in depth. You can just throw yourself in and say, right, I'm going to build something today. So as we come back in once more, let's just start to get maybe some engines on the go. So I think in terms of, again, we'll just put a few more power thingamajigs in. Now, engines are just going to be plonked, That's plonked. Technical term just means put anywhere for the time being. And it's just to literally have some ability to move forward, back, up, down, left, right, and also, most importantly, stop when we need it to. But again, no more than that. I think this is, yeah, to be honest, it's never going to be a speed demon. That's for damn sure. But what you do want it to have is when it's angularing and turning and moving and blah, blah, the ability to stop and slow down. Okay, so that's quite important. And I like this configuration here. I'm a big fan of this kind of stuff. You see that? It just looks like massive turbines now. It looks pretty sweet, doesn't it? But in theory, that should be done there. So let's just put a crap load of these. There we go. And they're gyroscopes, so they help the thing turn. But even then, I can only imagine this is still going to take some time. And here we go. Let's build our pod support. So again, in terms of the lore of these ships, according to CCP, that's your pod right there. Done. That's your ship. That's your EVE ship. Woo. Yeah, I don't believe it for a second. You know, I always liked the idea that there was crew on board, but jeebus, what's that about? So there we go. We're now finally seeing our externals. We're seeing the captain's view. We've got our drone flying around showing his thing. As you can see, Nano's colouring in. He's got these colouring in crayons, and he's doing a great job colouring in the underneath side. We will obviously populate that with a lot more stuff, you know, antennae, lights, etc. But at the moment, it's not a priority. But look, we're moving. We're moving. This thing is slow as balls. But that's an interesting thing. Look at that. Now, I know inertia has always been part of this game, and you experience it if you're kind of flying along at full whack, and then you just literally jump out the captain's chair. All of a sudden, you're thrown to the back. I kind of like that. It makes sense. But this thing is so huge. It's, what, 33 million kilograms. So what's that? That's, oh, God, let me work it out. 1,000 kilograms is a ton, right? So that's what, 300,000 tons? No, it's more than that. My brain is not working today. But you can see it's just a phenomenal amount. So, oh, yeah, no, that makes no sense. So this is 34,000 tons of ship. And it's not even finished yet. That's just the hull, the skin, if you like. If once you fit it out, triple it, because you'll have all of the reactors, you'll have all of the equipment, you'll have all of the engines, etc., and they're all heavy. So, and then just the deck plates themselves are going to be huge. But look at that, the whole thing's shimmying. You see it? I've never seen this before. You see, there's like each block is like working out what the stresses and strains are. At this point, I was ready to abandon ship because I thought, is this thing about to explode? But I think never before have like seen such a big ship move in the game. And I think that's maybe it. We're pushing the game quite honestly to its limits now. But you can see, look, there's that weird kind of flashing of blocks as I think the blocks are trying to move, and the calculation of moving all these blocks. I think it's probably just vast. So, you know, good stuff all around. This was a real accomplishment to get to this point, and it's not over yet. Again, you know, what we're going to do in the next video is we're going to show you, I'm going to bring my flagship over here. We're going to move around. We're going to have a fly around with the fighter. We're going to show you a bit more in depth of certainly what we've achieved here. But again, just to recap, this is something that, again, I really was quite surprised how easy it was to do. I would stress that if you wanted to do this, you know, the game is, what, £11? That's probably like $15. And just the level of enjoyment it would give you is incredible. It is just a giant train set, but again, look at what you can build. And we built a battleship in probably about 2 hours. That's literally all it was, maybe 3, to fit it out, etc. But I think the reality was it was just something that we just said to ourselves, let's build this. And lo and behold, here we go. And I think it's been just an absolute joy to do. So in the next video, we will we'll actually show you the cruiser alongside this thing, and we'll actually go from cruiser to this, and we'll show that kind of, you know, dynamic between the two, because it's quite interesting just literally getting to grips with how big this thing is. Hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.